from here might be impressive. Am I right?
Whatever, Chet.
So right here.
From there!
From anywhere.
When Caitlin Clark stepped into the advertising world, nobody had to invent a character for her. The brands didn't need writers to exaggerate her personality or create fictional versions of who she was. They just pointed cameras at her and let the reality that millions of fans already knew do the heavy lifting. Because by the time her first commercials dropped, she'd already shattered the all-time NCAA scoring record, launched nearly 350 career three-pointers from distances that shouldn't exist, and turned logo range pull-ups into her version of a warm-up routine. She'd pulled 18.7 million viewers to a single title game. National networks had rewritten their entire schedules around Iowa games. Entire arenas sold out just to watch her cross half-court. So when the ads came, they weren't selling a product through Caitlin Clark. They were selling Caitlin Clark through products. And that shift changed everything about how we see athlete endorsements. What happened next would prove that authenticity isn't just valuable in sports. It's transformable into something bigger than any traditional commercial could ever achieve. The Nike campaign hit first, and it worked because it didn't try to be clever.
Hey, Caitlin! Can you make it from there?
Hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it from there. No chance.
Caitlin, conmigo, let's.
You got it. I'm not even gonna ask.
It just took what actually happened during her college career and turned it into a running gag that felt inevitable the moment you heard the premise. The whole concept was built on a single question asked over and over by different people in different locations, escalating in absurdity with each iteration. Hey, Caitlin, can you make it from there? Someone pointing from the sideline, someone else from a stairwell, another person from an upper deck, a friend from the corner, someone yelling from a balcony. Each location got progressively more ridiculous, and with each question, the people around her got a little more doubtful, like it was 2021 all over again, when they still thought telling Caitlin Clark she couldn't make a shot would actually stop her from making it. The beauty of the Nike spot wasn't in the production value, or the special effects, or the budget they threw at celebrity cameos.
Hey, State Farm's here to help, no matter how long you've been in the game.
Game? Oh, man.
Pickles.
It worked.
It was in the fact that every single location they pointed to, she'd actually hit a similar shot during her 3 years at Iowa. This is what made the commercial resonate so deeply with basketball fans. They weren't watching a fabricated scenario. They were watching a replay of her actual college career compressed into 30 seconds of perfect comedic timing. She did pull up from 30 feet as casually as other guards take free throws. She did torch South Carolina and LSU and Ohio State from the same angles the actors were pointing to in the commercial. She did hit more deep pull-ups than any men's or women's player in the nation during that stretch. Nike didn't have to write comedy or hire improv comedians or construct elaborate setups. They exaggerated her normal behavior by 5%, maybe less, and suddenly it becomes a punchline that millions of fans had already been making in real time during her games. From there, she can't possibly make it. Oh, never mind. She made it. That's the joke everyone was already telling in group chats and on social media. Nike just captured it and packaged it into a commercial. The genius of this approach was understanding that comedy and advertising works best when it's rooted in documented truth. Her teammates in the ads don't have to act disbelief, because anyone who watched her play understands the genuine shock people felt watching her pull from logo range. The camera didn't have to be creative. The situation was already funny because the premise was real. And when the National Broadcasting Company had been reshuffling its entire schedule around Iowa games specifically to capture her performances, when stadiums had been selling out in minutes just to watch her warm up, when her shooting range had become the defining narrative of women's college basketball for an entire season, the joke writes itself. A person asking if she can make it from impossible distances isn't absurd. It's a perfect documentation of what her opponents and announcers and fans had been experiencing in real time. What made this campaign particularly smart was the timing and the message layering underneath. The Nike spot dropped around the same time her $28 million lifetime endorsement deal was being finalized, which meant it also worked as a subtle wink to the basketball world. She's not just shooting from deep anymore, she's hitting from anywhere off the court too. The commercial was simultaneously celebrating her on-court dominance while announcing her off-court dominance in the endorsement space. It was saying, watch what she does with a basketball and understand that's the same precision and dominance she's bringing to everything else. Major brands wanted her. Every company that could afford her wanted to partner with her. And Nike made sure everyone understood that this wasn't just another athlete endorsement. This was a cultural moment. The campaign also tapped into something deeper about how audiences consume sports content now. People don't just watch highlights anymore. They share them. They clip them. They discuss them in real time on social media. They create their own commentary and memes around them. Nike understood that the best advertising in 2024 isn't trying to convince people to buy something. It's creating a moment that people want to share because it feels authentic to what they already know. The commercial became shareable not because it was slick or expensive, but because it felt like a natural extension of conversations basketball fans were already having. When you're watching a game and your friend says she can't possibly make it from there, and then she makes it, you're already living the joke. Nike just filmed the joke and released it to millions of people. The ripple effect of this campaign was significant for women's basketball overall. It positioned Caitlin Clark's dominance as a narrative that extended beyond the court. She wasn't just a great basketball player. She was a cultural phenomenon. She was someone brands wanted to invest in. She was someone worth building entire advertising campaigns around. And when major corporations like Nike are saying that through their actions, not just their words, it shifts how the general public thinks about women's basketball. It elevates the entire conversation. Suddenly, parents are talking to their kids about her commercials. Grandparents are sharing clips of her shooting from impossible distances. People who have never watched college basketball are curious about who this player is. That's the power of authentic advertising. It doesn't feel like selling. It feels like sharing something people should know about. State Farm understood something different than Nike. If Nike captured her range and her dominance from distance, State Farm set out to capture her entire identity by zeroing in on the single shot that had made half the country stop whatever they were doing every time she pulled from logo distance. The From the Logo ad opens with that familiar game day energy, that broadcast voice calling out her name, and the distance with the cadence of every basketball announcer who'd spent the last 3 years watching her pull up from depths that defied logic. And then immediately, it flips into something completely everyday and playful, stripping away the stadium energy and replacing it with normal domestic scenarios. Instead of a sold-out arena, she's in a kitchen, a living room, a board game table. Everything she does is technically normal in the context of what's happening, but the joke is that she's doing it from logo range, the way she'd do it if logo range was her default operating distance for literally everything. Making a tomato appear where it needs to be, perfectly placed on a cutting board, from logo distance. Answering a trivia question about Sheboygan from logo distance, like the answer, requires that specific spatial precision. The key detail that makes this commercial work is how casual she makes it look. No effort, no big reaction, no celebration, no acknowledgement that what she's doing is absurd. Just the same calm, natural expression making it look routine, like hitting something from logo distance is just how she operates in the physical world. She's not straining or concentrating or showing any sign that this is difficult. It's just her baseline. And that's what makes it funny. The humor comes from the complete lack of drama. The situation is inherently absurd, but she treats it like it's the most normal thing in the world. That commercial nailed something important about her presence and her personality. She doesn't need to perform excitement. She doesn't need to mugging for the camera or oversell the moment. The situation itself becomes enough because she refuses to overplay it. Then State Farm decided to completely flip the tonal approach with their second campaign, the one that brought in NBA legends Jimmy Butler and Reggie Miller and leaned fully into controlled chaos and misunderstandings. This time the setup starts simple and innocent. A couple casually says shoot, and everything spirals into confusion and escalating absurdity. The word triggers Caitlin like muscle memory that exists at a deeper level than conscious thought. Her whole body language shifts into game mode instantly, her posture changing, her eyes sharpening, her hands moving into shooting position. She's ready to fire a three-pointer, except there's no basketball. There's no hoop. There's nothing. Just the word, and her entire system has already locked into basketball mode. Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, someone who literally built his entire career on deep three-pointers and clutch shooting moments, is just standing there watching the whole thing implode in real time. The couple keeps repeating the word as they're trying to communicate. The timing keeps getting worse with each iteration. Jimmy Butler jumps in trying to explain State Farm's app features and how easy it is to file claims, while everyone's confused about why Caitlin keeps going into shooting motion without anything to shoot at. The confusion multiplies. Nobody's on the same page. The conversation is trying to go one direction, but Caitlin's competitive instinct is pulling it in a completely different direction. What makes it land isn't overplayed comedy or exaggerated reactions or everyone mugging for the camera. It's just her natural competitive instinct showing up in completely wrong settings. It's funny because it's real. That's exactly how competitors operate at the highest level. One word, one trigger, and the body knows what to do even when the brain's trying to follow a different conversation. Your mind might be focused on insurance claims, but if someone says shoot, the competitor in you fires. This commercial worked because it showed a side of her personality that goes beyond stats and highlights. It showed that she's genuinely wired differently, that her brain is always in basketball mode, that you could put her in any scenario, and she's instinctively reading it through the lens of competition. And that's something audiences connect with because it's relatable on a human level. Everyone has that thing they're obsessed with, that trigger word that makes them shift mentally into their zone. For Caitlin Clark, it's anything basketball related. The commercial makes that obsession funny by putting her in situations where that obsession makes no sense. But it also makes it endearing because it shows she can't turn it off. She doesn't want to turn it off. Her competitive instinct isn't something she leaves at the court. It's who she is as a person. What's brilliant about State Farm running both these campaigns simultaneously is that they're showing different dimensions of the same person. The logo range ad shows her calm, collected, unbothered confidence. The Jimmy Butler and Reggie Miller ad shows her competitive instinct that never stops firing. Together, they create a more complete picture of who she is. She's not just a shooter, she's a competitor. She's not just skilled, she's obsessed. And both versions of her are interesting enough to build entire commercials around. This dual approach also gave State Farm incredible versatility in their marketing. They could run the calm, confident version for one demographic and the chaos version for another demographic. They could adapt the message based on the audience they were trying to reach. But more importantly, they were showing that Caitlin Clark as a person is multidimensional, which made her more valuable as a brand ambassador because she could work in different tonal contexts. The Capital One commercial was different from everything else that had come before it because it represented something bigger than a funny 30-second spot or a clever play on her abilities. This was the moment Caitlin Clark officially entered the era where she wasn't just appearing in ads alongside legends. She was sitting across from global icons at the same table, not as a cameo or a supporting player or a prop to make the real stars look good, but as a legitimate fourth star in one of the biggest recurring sports advertising franchises in the entire country. Samuel L. Jackson, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley sitting in a diner booth doing their annual March Madness campaign, a series that had featured Larry Bird, Spike Lee, Michael Jordan references, and the biggest names in sports and entertainment for years. And then Caitlin Clark walks in like she belongs there, and nobody questions it. Nobody acts surprised. Nobody treats her like she's the newcomer. She just sits down and becomes part of the conversation immediately. Magic Johnson sees her from across the diner and his entire face changes. His whole energy shifts. His eyes light up. Behind-the-scenes footage leaked later showing Magic genuinely excited to meet her, not because she'd become a celebrity or because she was trending on social media, but because he was meeting someone who he genuinely believed was changing the trajectory of women's basketball the same way he and Bird had changed the entire NBA. He said it directly in those behind-the-scenes moments. Her impact on the WNBA is what he and Bird did for the NBA. Her ability to make the league feel essential, to draw viewers who'd never watched women's basketball before, to elevate the entire sport just by existing in it. That's not casual praise. That's not something you say to be nice. That's a legend recognizing another legend-level talent, someone who's operating at a generational level. When Magic Johnson, someone who's seen basketball at every level, who's played against the greatest players ever, who's mentored the next generation, looks at you and sees that spark. That's validation that goes beyond statistics and highlights. Charles Barkley, who'd been defending her publicly since she entered the WNBA, immediately started cracking jokes like she'd been part of the crew for years, like they'd known each other forever, like this was the natural place for her to be. He didn't treat her like a guest or someone new. He treated her like a colleague, which is even more significant because Barkley has never been someone to give unearned respect. He says what he thinks. He defends merit. And his immediate acceptance of her as part of that group was him saying, "Yeah, you belong here." And then the commercial itself used her strengths and her abilities in the funniest way possible, in ways that would make casual viewers understand why these legends were so impressed. Precision, timing, quiet confidence. That's what the commercial showed. She tosses a burger bun across the diner and lands it perfectly on a plate from an impossible angle, making it look like the most natural thing in the world. She flicks a cherry onto Magic Johnson's ice cream with the exact touch and trajectory that shows elite hand-eye coordination, like she's executing one of those full-court, offhand, falling sideways passes she'd thrown from the sideline at Iowa during crucial moments. 3 scoops, she scores. The commercial keeps stacking these small moments where she does something technically normal, but with a level of precision that's clearly above average. And she does it all with a smirk, the exact same smirk she'd had after dropping a 30-footer against LSU in the Elite Eight when everyone in the stadium knew they couldn't stop her. Everyone else in the commercial reacts big. They celebrate. They make a big deal out of what she's doing. She stays calm. She stays composed. That dynamic is what made the moment hit so hard, because it shows the contrast between her and everyone around her. They're impressed. She's just executing. But the real power of that capital, one moment came from what happened behind the scenes, the footage that nobody planned to go viral, but absolutely did. Magic shook his head and said she had the spark he'd seen in great players. Barkley kept repeating she was incredible, using that word over and over. Samuel L. Jackson was clearly enjoying himself, impressed by her presence and her personality. And then a behind-the-scenes clip went viral on social media because people saw her personality in a completely new way that didn't fit into the usual athlete endorsement box. The looseness, the laughter, the casual confidence, the ability to banter with 3 of the biggest personalities in sports and entertainment without trying to punch above her weight or overcompensate. She was just there, being herself, cracking jokes, having fun, and it elevated everything around her. Fans who'd never watched women's basketball started sharing clips of her trick shots in a diner because the moment felt authentic in a way that most sponsored content doesn't. It felt like these legends legitimately wanted to be around her. It wasn't transactional. It wasn't like they showed up, filmed the commercial, and left. Felt like they were genuinely enjoying each other's company, which meant something deeper was happening. This wasn't just an ad campaign. This was a passing of the torch moment. This was the sports world publicly acknowledging that something new and important had arrived. And that's when her marketing power became undeniable. Her rookie WNBA season broke every metric the league had ever tracked. Highest viewership ever. Multiple games exceeding 1.2 million live viewers simultaneously. Sold out arenas everywhere she went, even in cities where women's basketball had historically struggled for attendance. Over 50,000 jerseys sold in a matter of months, breaking every league record for merchandise sales. And now, she was the star of an advertising series usually reserved exclusively for NBA legends and global entertainment figures. While those bigger campaigns were rolling out and dominating the advertising landscape, other brands started building their own angles around her identity without competing for the same space. They weren't trying to outdo Nike or State Farm. They were finding their own lane, leveraging specific aspects of her game and personality that connected to their particular brand message. Xfinity went simple and clever with an identity joke that used her name as the punchline in a way that felt fresh and original. Not all Caitlin Clarks are the same. There's Caitlin Clark, the city planner, someone with a completely different life and career trajectory. And then there's Caitlin Clark, the basketball player, the one who casually pulls up from logo range like she's checking the time, like hitting impossible shots, is just part of her daily routine. The humor comes from the contrast between these two different versions of the same name, two completely different people living different lives. Regular Caitlin Clarks introduce themselves with ordinary energy, with the kind of normal, slightly nervous energy people usually have when meeting new people or introducing themselves in professional settings. And then basketball Caitlin pops in with a dry line that immediately establishes her vibe. She shoots from here. That's kind of my thing. It's the most understated performance of all her commercials, which is exactly why it works so effectively. There's no mugging for the camera. There's no forced personality. There's no trying too hard to be funny. She just delivers the line with the kind of casual confidence that says, yeah, I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. The Xfinity commercial understood that sometimes the funniest moment is the one that's delivered with complete seriousness and zero inflection. The metaphor practically writes itself when your spokesperson is someone who hit threes from distances that should legally require a permit, someone who expanded the entire accepted definition of shooting range in women's college basketball. Xfinity also slipped in an unspoken truth that works on multiple levels. Her connection is as reliable as her jumper. The commercial is technically about internet service and reliability, about making sure your connection doesn't drop when you need it most. But the deeper message is that Caitlin Clark is someone you can count on. She's someone whose performance is consistent. She doesn't choke. She doesn't miss when it matters. She's reliable in the way that only the absolute best performers are reliable. That's a powerful association for a brand to make. And the timing of the campaign lined up perfectly with a wave of real-world success that was happening simultaneously. Her rookie season pushed average WNBA attendance up by more than 25% league-wide, which is a staggering increase for any professional sports league. Teams were moving games to bigger arenas because the original venues couldn't hold all the fans wanting to watch her play. Opponents were selling out home games for the first time in years, sometimes in the history of their franchise. Xfinity leaned into that growth trajectory by positioning her as the face of real-deal reliability, something fans already understood from watching her game. When you're building a brand message around consistency and dependability, you want someone who represents those qualities on a fundamental level. And Caitlin Clark does that in a way that's almost unmatched. She shows up. She performs. She doesn't make excuses. That's what Xfinity was selling, and it felt genuine because it was rooted in truth. GameBridge took a completely different approach by centering their entire campaign around assists instead of scoring, which is interesting because assists are often overlooked in basketball narratives. Everyone talks about scoring. Everyone cares about points. But the people who really understand the game understand that assists are often the more impressive skill. In college, she finished with over 1,000 assists across her career and averaged more than 8 assists per game during her final season while still being the primary scorer on her team. That combination is rare enough that basketball analysts constantly pointed out she wasn't just a scorer. She was running 2 elite roles simultaneously on the same court. She was serving as the offensive engine while also functioning as the primary playmaker. That's a level of versatility that very few players ever reach. The GameBridge ad translates that basketball identity into real-life scenarios without forcing it or making it feel clumsy or obvious. One moment shows her casually reading angles that other people don't see and instinctively turning a normal interaction into an assist-like setup. She's seeing the play before it develops. Another moment escalates into more comedic beats where it becomes impossible not to laugh. Popcorn tossed during a game that lands perfectly in someone's mouth without them expecting it, like she's fed them a pass. A spontaneous high five that connects at exactly the right second, perfectly timed. Small background moments where people realize too late that she's already passed the moment to them, where she set them up for success before they even realized they were in a position to succeed. The humor comes from how effortless it looks. She's not trying to be funny. She's not performing or exaggerating or playing up reactions for effect. The situation itself becomes funny because she's just too aware of everything happening around her. She's reading the court even when there's no court, even when she's in regular situations dealing with normal people going about their lives. That's where the advertisement quietly wins. It's not loud. It's not exaggerated. It doesn't rely on celebrity cameos or huge productions. It just stacks small moments where she assists reality in ways that feel slightly impossible, but still believable if you've watched her play enough. It makes you understand that her brain is wired differently, that she's always in game mode, always seeing the play, always thinking 2 steps ahead. And that's valuable for a brand like GameBridge because they can position themselves as the assist to your savings, the invisible hand helping you succeed financially the way she's helping her teammates succeed on the court. The campaign works because it shows that assists aren't just a basketball stat. They're a philosophy. They're a way of thinking about the world. And Caitlin Clark has built her entire career around that philosophy, making everyone around her better, setting people up for success, always thinking about the collective good above individual glory. Then State Farm decided to shift their approach into something that felt less like a traditional commercial and more like something that accidentally went viral before anyone even realized it was branded content, which is the goal of every major brand in 2024. The Instagram-style Chris Paul retirement reaction campaign used the social media native format where clips, reposts, and reactions are layered on top of each other in exactly the way sports news actually spreads through the internet now. This wasn't a polished television spot with clear production value and professional lighting and perfect editing. This was designed to look like something that emerged organically from the internet, like it happened in real time and got captured by various people with their phones, then reposted and shared until it became a moment. Chris Paul's retirement storyline gets folded into a State Farm scenario in this chaotic, layered way where the narrative isn't clean or linear. Chris Paul, a player with over 20 seasons in the NBA, more than 11,000 career assists, and one of the highest basketball IQ reputations in the entire league, is framed in this comedic retirement question setup that keeps getting interrupted and confused. But instead of a serious tone, the ad leans fully into confusion, interruptions, and layered reactions that pile up on top of each other until nothing makes sense anymore. State Farm agents jump in trying to assist the situation. Jake from State Farm appears at inconvenient moments, trying to file claims about the retirement announcement. And Caitlin Clark's presence sits in the middle of it, all like she's watching a conversation unfold in real time that keeps escalating beyond anyone's ability to control it. There's a moment where the tone shifts into this comedic overload, where everything that could go wrong is going wrong at the same time. Questions about retirement stack on top of each other. Interruptions come from unexpected places. Fake allow me to assist responses clash with each other. Characters stepping in at the wrong time saying the wrong things. And through all of it, the core question gets lost. Is Chris Paul retiring or not? Nobody actually answers it. Everyone's just reacting and interrupting and adding their own layer to the chaos. That's what makes it feel modern and authentic, because it's structured exactly like the way sports news actually spreads through the internet now, especially breaking news. Clips get posted. People repost them. Reactions follow. Confusion spreads. Misinformation develops. And within minutes, nobody really knows what the original story was anymore. It's just a mess of clips and reactions and commentary all stacked on top of each other. The commercial captured that chaos perfectly. And just when it feels like State Farm has already peaked the chaos and can't push it any further, the layers keep adding. There's always one more interruption. There's always one more person jumping into a conversation they don't fully understand. There's always one more moment where the original message gets lost in the noise. That's genius advertising because it's not trying to sell you State Farm directly. It's creating a moment that reflects how your brain actually processes information on social media. It's mirroring the experience of being online. And because it's mirroring something people experience daily, it feels relatable. It feels like something you'd actually encounter if you were scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or TikTok during a major sports news cycle. The behind-the-scenes reality is that this ad was carefully scripted and planned and executed, but it was designed to look spontaneous and unplanned. That's the new frontier of advertising. Creating content that looks like it wasn't created. Creating content that feels organic. Creating content that could exist on social media without anyone knowing it's an advertisement. Because the moment someone realizes they're being advertised to, their guard goes up. They get skeptical. But if you can make an ad feel like something that organically emerged from the internet, something that looks like it could have gone viral naturally without any corporate backing, then you've broken through the barrier. You've created something that people will actually share and engage with as if it's genuine content, not branded content. State Farm understood that their audience, particularly younger audiences, is increasingly sophisticated about advertising. They can spot a traditional commercial from a mile away. They've developed immunity to the usual techniques and messages, but they don't have immunity to something that looks and feels like authentic social media content. They'll share that. They'll engage with that. They'll comment on that. And before you know it, more people have seen the ad organically through social sharing than would have seen it if State Farm bought traditional television slots and paid for prime-time placement. The economics of advertising are shifting, and campaigns like this Instagram native Chris Paul retirement moment are leading the way. It's not about production value anymore. It's about authenticity and relatable moments and tapping into the actual experience of being online in the modern era. The State Farm rookie ad brought everything back to self-aware humor by leaning directly into her WNBA rookie narrative and the inherent contradiction that defines her existence as a professional basketball player right now. She entered the league as one of the most hyped and anticipated rookies in the entire history of women's basketball, coming off a college career where she'd become the all-time leading scorer in NCAA Division I women's basketball with 3,951 career points. Nobody had ever scored that many points in a college basketball career before. She hit over 340 career three-pointers, many from distances that statistically sit well beyond what the average college shooter attempts, let alone makes consistently. She'd finished her college career with over 1,000 assists. She'd won every award you could win in college basketball. She'd been compared to all-time greats before she even stepped on an NBA court. State Farm built the entire commercial around that rookie identity. But the flip was that being a rookie in the traditional sense doesn't really apply when you're already playing like a veteran presence in the league, when you're already mentoring younger players, when you're already setting records and breaking expectations and carrying teams. The setup starts with a typical household accident scenario involving a garage, a confused driver, and a classic rookie mistake situation. Someone makes an obvious error and someone else calls it a rookie move. But then Caitlin herself gets pulled into the conversation about what counts as a rookie move and what the definition of inexperience actually means. I could have sworn it was open. Rookie move. I was a rookie once. And that's where the humor hits because it immediately becomes self-referential and ironic. She's introduced as Rookie of the Year, which is factually true. She won that award. But the ad immediately undercuts that prestigious accomplishment by treating it like ancient history. Ancient history. The stories I could tell you. She's saying this in a way that suggests her rookie year was so long ago, so much has happened since, that being called Rookie of the Year feels like something from a different lifetime. It's funny because it's been literally one season, and yet she's already created such an enormous impact that she's treating it like she's been in the league forever. The dialogue keeps layering irony on top of irony. Rookie mistakes are being discussed in the commercial, while experienced voices jump in offering advice. And Caitlin standing in the middle of it, all like someone who is technically still early in her career, still officially a rookie, but already being treated like a veteran presence in media culture and popular consciousness. The most replayed part of the ad is the tonal mismatch between the serious insurance messaging and the comedic timing. Serious insurance-style messaging blends with comedic timing in a way that shouldn't work but does. Jake from State Farm steps in to assist the situation, which becomes funny because he's assisting a situation that was never really unclear in the first place. And the idea of experience versus inexperience gets turned into a running joke instead of a serious comparison. The core message is that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing something. What matters is how you do it. What matters is the quality of your performance. And the ad works because the audience already knows her trajectory intimately. She wasn't just a rookie in the traditional sense, where someone's learning the ropes and still figuring things out. She entered the league averaging over 19 points and 8 assists per game, immediately becoming one of the most statistically impactful first-year guards in WNBA history, while simultaneously driving record-breaking attendance and viewership spikes across multiple arenas, while simultaneously breaking merchandise sales records, while simultaneously becoming the face of women's basketball and one of the biggest names in sports. That's not a typical rookie experience. That's not what usually happens when a new player enters the league. So when the ad calls something a rookie move, it feels layered with irony. It's not just about rookie mistakes in the traditional sense. It's about perception versus reality. It's about how she's simultaneously new to professional basketball and operating at a veteran level that actual veterans haven't seen in years. It's about how rookie usually means inexperienced, but she's anything but inexperienced. She's been performing at an elite level since she was 16 years old. She's been winning championships and breaking records and pushing boundaries for years. The only thing that's rookie about her is that she just started playing in the WNBA. What makes this commercial work is that it plays with that contradiction directly. It doesn't shy away from the paradox of her existence as a rookie who's already a legend. It embraces it. It makes it funny. It turns it into a moment that feels relatable because everyone understands the joke. If you've watched women's basketball or even just paid attention to the cultural moment she's created, you understand that calling her a rookie in any meaningful sense is absurd. She's already changed the trajectory of the league. She's already inspired a generation of young basketball players. She's already broken every attendance record. She's already pushed the boundaries of what's possible for women's basketball. And yet officially, she's still in her rookie season. The commercial captures that contradiction perfectly and makes it the basis for the humor. Then came the Gatorade ad, and it felt different immediately the moment it started playing, because it dropped most of the comedy structure that had defined her previous campaigns and leaned instead into emotional, almost documentary-style storytelling. This wasn't about making people laugh. This wasn't about clever wordplay or situational comedy or ironic contrasts. This was about grind. This was about effort. This was about the foundational reality of what it takes to reach the level she's reached. The visuals are intentionally slower than the frenetic pace of the Nike and State Farm spots. The tone is heavier. There's more weight to what's being communicated. The commercial shows repetition, sweat, missed shots, exhaustion, frustration, and the relentless grind that exists behind every moment of performance. And instead of punchlines, it leans into repetition of effort, losing, learning, working, and repeating that cycle endlessly. The core message is simple but powerful and undeniable. W's aren't given, you've got to earn it. By losing sweat. The philosophy is that success isn't something that happens to you. Success is something you construct through accumulation of effort and time and repetition and failure. You lose before you win. You fail before you succeed. You miss shots before you make them. And every single moment of that process, every missed shot, every loss, every moment of frustration and exhaustion is part of the path to eventually reaching your peak. Gatorade was saying that Caitlin Clark's success isn't luck. It's not natural talent alone. It's the result of thousands of hours of work that nobody sees. It's the result of dedication and discipline and a willingness to do the work when nobody's watching. That's a powerful message in a world where so much of what we see is the highlight reel. But what made the Gatorade campaign particularly interesting is how the internet reacted to it. Instead of universal praise, instead of everyone agreeing that it was an inspiring message, people started turning it into a meme space pretty quickly. Viewers joked about the slogan's intensity, pointing out how dramatic the wording sounded compared to how naturally Caitlin Clark's actual game flows. Some comments highlighted the irony of how serious the tone felt for something tied to one of the most naturally expressive players in basketball. People were noting that her game doesn't look like she's grinding. It looks like she's playing. It looks fun and effortless and beautiful. And yet the Gatorade commercial is treating every moment like it's a struggle, like success requires suffering, like the path to the top is paved with pain and losing. That contradiction became part of the conversation. And in a way, that reaction became part of the ad's identity. Because Caitlin Clark exists in this rare space where she can appear in a serious, almost cinematic sports commercial with dramatic language and intense messaging, and also appear in a popcorn-throwing, assist-focused comedy ad in the same brand cycle. And the contrast between those two sides of her is what makes the whole ecosystem of commercials so interesting. She's not one-dimensional. She's not just the serious athlete or just the funny personality. She's both, and different brands are capturing different aspects of who she is. Nike captured her range. State Farm captured her routine confidence and her competitive instinct. Capital One captured her ability to sit with legends. GameBridge captured her playmaking philosophy. Gatorade captured her work ethic. And together, These campaigns create a more complete picture of who she is as a person and as a player. The meme ability of the Gatorade ad actually worked in its favor, interestingly, because people sharing jokes about the campaign and laughing about the dramatic language and discussing the irony of applying that intense messaging to someone who plays with such apparent ease, they're still engaging with the brand. They're still talking about Gatorade. They're still sharing clips and discussing the message and thinking about what it means. And from a marketing perspective, that's the goal. You want people talking about your campaign. You want people sharing it. You want people discussing it and debating it and engaging with it. Whether they're doing that by praising it sincerely or joking about it doesn't ultimately matter. The engagement is what drives the visibility. What's particularly smart about Gatorade's approach is that they weren't trying to be funny or clever. They were trying to communicate something real and genuine about the nature of performance and success at the highest level. And even though the internet joked about it, even though people found irony in how dramatic it was, the core message still landed. It still communicated that Caitlin Clark is someone who works incredibly hard, who's dedicated to her craft, who's willing to do what it takes to reach and maintain elite performance levels. That's a powerful association for Gatorade to make because it positions their product as a tool for people who are serious about performance and achievement. If you're the kind of person who wants to perform at your best, who's willing to put in the work, who embraces the grind, then Gatorade is the hydration choice for you. The juxtaposition of the Gatorade serious tone with all the comedy commercials also reveals something interesting about how Caitlin Clark is being positioned across multiple brands. She's not a one-note endorser. She's someone who can work in multiple tonal contexts. She can be funny. She can be serious. She can be reflective. She can be competitive. She can be playful. That versatility makes her valuable because different brands need different tones and different messaging. And she can deliver all of it authentically. She's not pretending to be something she's not in any of these campaigns. She's just showing different facets of who she is. And that authenticity is ultimately what makes all of these commercials work. When you line all of these campaigns up together, it becomes pretty clear what's actually happening in the advertising world right now. These aren't just separate commercials competing for attention or trying to outdo each other. They're different ways that brands are building around the same central idea. Caitlin Clark is the center of the moment, not just another athlete appearing in the frame trying to sell products. In one ad, she's reading angles like a playmaker off the court. In another, she's dropped into a chaotic reaction style setup that mirrors how the internet processes information. In another, she's joking about being a rookie while already performing like a veteran presence. In another, she's the serious voice in a grind to greatness story. Different tones, different brands, different approaches, but the same effect every single time. Every time she shows up, the scene naturally tilts toward her without her forcing anything. She just feels like the main point of focus. And that's why these ads have spread and become culturally relevant, not because they're massive productions or celebrity spectacles, but because they turn small moments into clips that people want to replay and share with others. One assist becomes a joke. One reaction becomes a meme. One rookie line becomes irony. And it all circles back to one name: